Hi, I'm Amanda from Life Unravelled, and we're here to unravel life's little mysteries. Today we're looking at 4-year-olds and maths, and what are the things that we can do to help our kids with our maths? Well, there are so many aspects of maths that make it very confusing, and you sort of think, oh, I don't know how to do it, I give up. And I can understand that, but let's go through some of it so that it makes it very, very simple for you. Now remember that at 4, the kids are really curious, so we're going to harness that curiosity and help them to learn through their curiosity. We're going to harness all those aspects of a 4-year-old that make them 4, and that way when they go to school they'll be ready for the learning and the socialization and everything that encompasses school, so that they can have a very positive experience. Children learn through observation, but mostly they learn through doing. They'll watch something and then they'll try it and 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 try it until they get it right. And they've learnt like this for their whole lives. And that's the best way that they can learn. So remember, the more that they do things, the more that they try, the more you encourage them to try and do better and better, then the easier it will be for them in the long run. They need to do it themselves. So remember, hands off and give them the time, which will drive you crazy, I know, but it's really worth it because in the long run they become quicker and better at doing things themselves. Now there are so many types of maths, as I said before. There is numbers, 1, 2, 3, 7, 22, 163. There's counting, which is your 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, etc. There are shapes, circles, squares, but also looking at 3D shapes like spheres and cubes. There's spatial awareness. Now that is how you can fit, for instance, all of your Tupperware containers into one drawer, or a whole package of all your stuff to go camping in the back of your car. That sort of thing is what spatial awareness is. A game like Jenga is great for spatial awareness. Being able to poke things through a hole, like your star shape into your shape ball, that's spatial awareness. So those sorts of things are really important for 4-year-olds in particular to be able to become aware of their spatial awareness. The language of maths. So for instance, there are so many ways to say adding. You can do plus, add, together. All these words are meaning exactly the same thing. And in order for children to understand that, you need to be able to use all the different languages and all the different words. Time is another one. Being able to tell the time, or being able to know when it's morning, and that there's a sequence, a morning, a lunch, and night. So they have a sequence of the day. They have breakfast, they get up in the morning, they get dressed, they have breakfast, they go to kindy. And they have this routine, and that understanding of time is important. That there are birthdays every year that they have. That there are different seasons. There's summer and winter, there's spring and autumn. That there's football season and not football season. You know, there are so many different parts of time that the children need to have an understanding and get a concept around. Looking at opposites and comparisons. That's really important, that they have a black and white, or day and night, they're opposites. And comparing tall and short, fat and thin, those sorts of things that we're talking about in comparisons. The children need to understand those words, and not only that, they need to understand those concepts as well. And grouping and sequencing. Now grouping is just getting together objects of the same amount, and I'm sure if you've watched Sesame Street you'll see the Count Dracula And not only does he count, but he also sees which things are the same or which things are different. And he'll give you 5 circles and a square, and you'll pick out that the square is different. So these comparisons and these being able to group things together and know how many in a group will help them with their addition and multiplication later on in school. And sequencing is the sequence of events, not necessarily time related, but things that happen one after the other. For instance, if there is a house, then there is a fire in the house, and then the house is fallen down. So you wouldn't have a fallen down house before the fire, you would have that sequence of events. And those sequencing happens, or children learn those sequencings pretty much just by living everyday life and pointing out every now and then, oh, this happens after this, or you talking to them about what's the next thing that's going to happen. If I throw this on the floor, what's going to happen? If I throw a glass on the floor, what's going to happen? And then they'll understand what the sequence of events is. There are some great games too with sequencing, but we'll get into that later. Again, we have a course that goes through all these aspects in great detail, and it really helps children, or helps you understand what the children need to be able to be successful at maths at school. So today we can't go through all of these aspects. It's just too much for this short session. So what we're going to do is we're going to pick out just a couple of them and have a look at them. The first one we're going to look at is the language of maths. Now the reason that I put this in is I think this is the most important part for us to understand as adults so that we can help our kids. So many times I've been in the staff room and I've heard teachers say, oh, in the first week, these kids know nothing about maths. And then 2 weeks later they go, oh, my class is brilliant at maths. And the majority of the time all it was is that the children didn't understand what the language was. They understood the concepts, they knew all about the concepts and about what they were supposed to do. They just didn't understand the language of the teacher. And this happens again and again, especially when children go from kindy to home and then off to school. So how can we help them? Well, we can use lots of different language. You can count with numbers every day. So make sure that they understand not just up to 10, but they can count as many as they can. I remember one of my friend's children could count to 13, and we could not work out why. She couldn't go past 13. She could easily go up to 13, but not past there. And then we realized that every night they would climb up their stairs and they had 13 stairs. So they'd go 1, 2, 3, and that repetition every single night was great. She could count very easily up to 13, but once he got to 14, had no idea. So don't just stop at just one number. The other way you can do it, counting, is great through nursery rhymes. 5 little ducks. 5 little ducks went out one day, and then you've got the whole song, and it's actually about subtraction. So those sorts of nursery rhymes and songs that you sing that have numbers in them are really great for the kids. They love to learn them, they love to sing them, and that more you repeat it, the more repetition they get, the more that they understand what that learning is. Find numbers anywhere you go. Even now, and my kids are in their late teens, and even now I sit there at night, if I'm making up a salad, I'll go 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and I'll go, no, I don't need to count my circles of cucumber, no. But even now I still in my head count every single slice I make for my cucumbers. And I did that when they were little. They used to sit up on the kitchen bench or on the stool next to the kitchen, and I would count as I cut them up, and then we'd put different ones on plates, and how many should Should mummy have 5? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So you can see how I got those numbers more and more integrated into our everyday life. Now the other thing that kids love is especially at this age, they love big numbers. So if you can, when you're driving through a very long street and you get up to big numbers, you could stop and have a look. Oh, look, that number is 165. Whoa, that's really big. Or you could get a pack of cards and get them to count how many cards they have. By this stage, kids will love to count higher and higher and higher. Get them to count to 100. Get them to count how many seconds it takes to do something. The bigger their numbers, the better for them. Kids love shapes. So naming your shapes, your stop sign, this is a square, this is a circle. Having a look at a dinner plate, is it an oval or is it a circle dinner plate? Just in your everyday life, you can start to name these different parts of these different shapes that are around you. Oh, look, this window is rectangle, has 2 long sides and 2 short sides. And the more you talk about these things to the kids, the more that they start to understand what it's all about. If you throw a whole heap of beads or some buttons, and you can get them at the Kmart or at any of the shops, even their Lego, get them sorting and grouping Lego and sorting into colour or sorting into size or grouping them all together. Those sorts of things are fantastic for the kids. Get them to do it, not you. And then you're actually teaching them a little bit about addition, a little bit about multiplication, a little bit about opposites and similar. All those sorts of concepts are actually being taught in these ways. Get them to manipulate a whole heap of shapes. Get them to stack Tupperware in the cupboard. Get them to move blocks around. The best way for spatial awareness and shapes are those wooden blocks, and you can buy them in the shops, in the toy shops, and get them to make all the different shapes out of triangles and spheres and squares and all sorts of different shapes. And they can then make a castle, or they could make a dog, or those sorts of things are important for the children to be able to manipulate those shapes, and that helps them to understand what the shape, the properties of the shape are. How many corners it has, how many sides it has, those sorts of things. And they're going to be very important when children get to school. The other thing is to make it real. I can remember one holiday we went on to, and it was fantastic that when we were driving through, the houses were completely different to the houses that we, in the state that we lived in. And as we're driving around, I went, oh, look at these houses, and we started naming some of the shapes of the houses. And oh, do we see houses on stilts when we're home? And no, so the houses were sitting on big sticks. And being able to get the kids to just recognize the differences means that they're starting to learn more about shapes and shape properties.
Thanks for listening. We're going to go through some more of these aspects in part 2. Looking forward to sharing some more ideas of great things and fun things you can do with your kids. Catch you next time. Bye.
This video was produced by Imagination Pty Ltd for Life Unravelled. All advice and information given during this course is designed for general use only. If you have any concerns for your child, please seek professional advice as soon as possible. For terms and conditions, please see website www.lifeunravelled.com.au.